All right, fine. I'll be a gracious host. How you doing?
Little Mermaid is the scariest Disney movie by far, though.
Why the hell is Ace Blade in your Kickstarter?
Some comics. I'm getting controversial today. We're gonna get controversial today with.
My proudest moment is this interview and being able to talk to you two.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Lumberjacks Comics in collaboration with Fourth Wall Productions respectfully brings to you the 137th episode of the Four Tales Podcast. I am your host, Uncle Morgan from Taurus Comics. Across the way is the magenta novelist of Ace Blade, Danny J. Quick, and together we are your two award-winning blurred comic creators here to help you find your next favorite comic. We are live on the Age of Geekdom Network via Facebook, Instagram, Kick, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Not Danny's TikTok, though. So if you're listening or watching us live, thank you for your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review this podcast because all your positive reviews and interactions help us reach a bigger audience. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
No, I'm all right. How you been?
I'm alive. I ain't gonna complain about it.
I mean, you can complain if you want.
I could, but it wouldn't do any good. I'm actually doing very good, man. I've been in a good creative space. I got some good ideas for some projects that I want to work on, and I think I'm doing all right.
I thought we tempered the idea of you jumping into more projects until we finish the ones you got going on.
I mean, these are just writing ideas, so it's not like I'm not being creative, but I'm not, jumping into other projects financially just yet. So that's good. That is good.
Okay. All right.
What about you?
I'm all right. We got a question in the chat already. Someone asked Kyron what happened to the new intro song. What happened to the new intro song was I played it once, and then Danny J. Quick said, "Oh yeah, I need to trim a couple of these things out, and I'll redo it and send it out to you."
Didn't happen.
And I'll go pull up the receipts. Don't.
Didn't happen. I sent you the newest one.
You sent me one. That was the one you gave me, and then I played it live, and you said, "Oh yeah, that's too long. I gotta trim some stuff out." And
I don't think so. I don't think that happened, Kyron. I think you're mixing me up with Morgan or Wally or.
Okay. My name is Uncle Morgan now.
I think you're mixing me up with somebody else because I don't think that happened. All
right, I'll go back. I will go find the video of us talking about this. That was only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that sounds all right.
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now while we're live.
Don't do that.
Okay.
So while we wait on our guest to arrive, what do you want to talk about? There's some big news in the comic book world. In New York Comic Con is happening right now. There's some exciting stuff being released. I see a lot of fake stuff though. Like I'm seeing like Marvel announcements of like TV shows for 2028 and stuff like that. And I'm like, that can't be real. I don't think it's real.
Yeah. What I want to talk about is apparently The Rock's daughter is going to retire from wrestling. She's only 25. I know.
Is that
She's
Charlotte?
only been wrestling.
No, Charlotte is Ric Flair's
Charlotte Flair is Ric Flair's daughter. We're talking about Ava.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Her wrestling name right now, she's on NXT. Her name is Ava. She's been wrestling for like a couple of years, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
She really got there because of being The Rock's daughter, but she's moved up now to be a creative side of things, and she's the manager at NXT.
Okay.
But apparently she's decided she's just not going to wrestle anymore. She's just going to stick with this role. And I'm like, must be nice.
Must be nice. That's what I'm saying about LeBron's son. Like if you have to have like a real passion for the sport, especially like the physical ones like wrestling, basketball, football, like sports like that. You have to have a real passion to get up every day and grind and practice and go to work every day on your craft. If you don't, then you're not going to be you're not going to be effective. No matter who your mom or dad is, you're not going to be effective, and you're not going to be able to stick around for the long run. So, I mean, I'm cheering for Bronny, and I cheer for nepotism, especially when it comes for. I cheer for nepotism when it's like somebody who's like a second generation, like I'm not like fifth, 10th generation. My great grandfather owned this plantation nepotism, but like my mom or dad was a rising star. She made something out of nothing, and I want to carry on her legacy. Nepotism, I'm all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was. Oh, I know what you wanted me to bring up. You wanted to talk about this. For our listening audience that are just on the podcast, what we're showing right now is the new logo that
Bet.
IDW announced that they're going to start using next year. Um, God, I don't like this setup right now. Here, let me do this. Okay, there we go. That's better. Now, you have been very adamant that this logo is benefiting. Is the
Yes.
best way I could put it. Benefiting.
Yes.
Um, and explain this to me.
I didn't say that. So the logo is not a good logo. Design wise, the logo is not very effective, in my opinion. As a person who's done graphic design and branding for a very long time, the logo is not effective in the traditional sense of it helps you recognize the brand if you didn't know about the brand, right? the
Okay.
What's effective about it is that it's getting people to talk about what they want people to talk about. It's just like, and we've seen this many times in recent history with Sonic coming out. You remember when they put out the ugly Sonic, and
Yeah.
everybody just went crazy about it, and then they changed it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this was done intentionally. I'm just saying that we've seen it work in the past, and benefit the people who are making things because they are able to get their message out, that they are changing from, IDW. What was it before? It was just IDW Comics,
Yeah. IDW Comics, I think.
and that was Comics and Entertainment. So no, IDW Publishing. It was
Oh yeah,
IDW
yeah, yeah.
Publishing before, and that was Comics and Entertainment. So they are branching out to do something else. I understand they probably wanted the logo to be more modern, something sleek that showed that they're changing direction and they're moving forward. That I can tell with the curved lines and the direction. They're trying to do a Nike swoosh at the bottom. That's also a I and also a D and also a W. It just doesn't work. But it is effective in the fact that it gets people to talk about what they're doing.
Okay. And I'm listening to you because you are a graphic designer by
Mhm.
trade. So I do listen to you. And prolific primetime walker. Wow, that is a lot to say. Said the same thing that you're basically saying. The logo is terrible, but it's getting everyone to talk about.
Yeah,
So it
and
worked.
Prolific is a longtime graphic designer, great graphic designer. He's actually working on some stuff for me, as a matter of fact. So,
All right.
shout out to Primetime.
So I get what you guys are saying in that regard, but there is a situation where, as a creative endeavor,
Mhm.
you throw out something that does not look good, that looks like a high school kid put it together for their art class.
Mhm.
Do you not lose credibility in that regard? And possibly maybe people look at it and like, why do I want to spend time and spend my money, my hard-earned money on your books if you're not even going to put out a good logo?
I don't think so. I think that,
Okay.
especially with comic book fans, I think that number one, the unless you're Marvel or DC, the publisher is not going to. Um,
See,
yeah,
okay,
right,
exactly. Just
exactly,
like Brad Arnie just said in the chat. Did anyone figure out what it's supposed to say? That's
right.
the problem. If we don't know what you're trying to say with your logo, why do we need this logo?
Right, but again, with comic books, I think the first issue is that the the publisher is not going to be your main draw for comic books. Like if it was Marvel and DC, maybe, but even then, people are looking for Batman or Superman or X-Men or X Force or whatever the actual title is
Okay.
what's gonna get, what's gonna be the selling point. And we already know people who buy comics are gonna buy comics. People who don't buy comics, have to be convinced a little more. And this logo, I think, has reached a broader audience than just the comic book fans. It's let people know about IDW that may have never known about it before.
But you just said it. It's trying to convince them to buy a comic of something that they don't know anything about.
Hmm.
No one knows what IDW really publishes. They're not, like you said,
Yeah.
they're not Batman. They're not Superman. So if you already one strike in the hole when you're throwing a book out there, and now you have this bad press of a bad logo, which makes you look amateurish. Again, why am I going to put my hard-earned money on something where you look amateur doing it? And it's not even, I mean, it's a combination of there's this weird figure of the IDW. It's this weird color. What is that? A salmon color?
Yeah.
It everything does not work. And it just makes it seem like, honestly, like some of the other self-published comics I've seen out there.
Yeah, like I think of course, they could have done a better job. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that.
But don't you think a company that's making money, I'm not saying they're making millions. I don't even know how much IDW makes.
Sure.
But if they're coming to a point where they're adding comics and entertainment, that to me makes me think that they're getting to a point where they want to branch out and make even more.
Right.
So if you're wanting to get to that point where you're now adding entertainment with the comics, show that professionalism that's going to drive people in.
Yeah. I don't think there was anything wrong with the old logo, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think I
it
think
worked well.
IDW publishing was fine. I think they could have added the comics and entertainment as separate type, faces to have it, when it's IDW comics, when it's IDW entertainment, to have them separate. I think that would have been just fine. Just like Marvel does. Marvel has Marvel comics. It has Marvel animation. It's got the same Marvel logo, but then it has, the subsets of this logo too. So
Yep.
I don't think it needed to be changed, but again, it's getting people talking, and that's what you're supposed to do, I guess.
Brad Arney says this is a really awful logo, and I have not seen anybody say that it is good at all.
It's
I,
not. I
I
mean, it's not. It's not a good logo. When it comes down to the design, it is not an effect. It is not a good logo because rule number one in logos is that you have to know what it says. It's
wait,
literally
there are rules to making logos.
yes, there are. There are
I
plenty of
just throw
them.
the font in and it just boom boom.
No, that's
Oh,
that's not how it goes. Rule number one
okay.
is legibility. If you cannot read it, if you cannot understand what it says, then you have failed as a graphic designer. If you are struggling to read the logo, then you have failed at design. And
Uh,
this breaks rule number one. So
Chatty House After Party is on our YouTube chat saying that's pretty bad. Chuck,
say
that's
terrible,
terrible.
terrible, terrible,
Hey,
terrible.
if you guys want to, if you're into sports, check out Chatty House After Party every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. I guess that's 11 p.m. Eastern, right?
I'm sleep.
Um,
But I'll catch the clips the next morning. I'll definitely
okay,
catch it the next morning
those
for
clips be
sure.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only thing I wanted to bring up. I was hoping our guest would be here, but now.
Well, until he gets here, shout out to Wally McNair who just launched his
Ooh,
Kickstarter today.
you're right.
Um,
Let's check on that.
Wally launched his second art book. If you've watched our show any amount of time, Wally is a good friend of mine. He's a great artist, creator, and he's launched his Kickstarter today for a second art book. I think he's about halfway funded. His goal is at $500, I believe, but I'm pretty confident that he'll make it. But we always want to shout out the friends of the show and
Yep.
everything that they're doing. So it's definitely a pretty cool art book. I think it's called Daydreaming at Night Part 2, and
Yes, yes, it
it shows
is.
it's showing his growth from the first art book um, that he did a few years ago. And
And he just launched this today, right?
yeah, just launched it this morning. He's only doing 2 weeks. We have had many conversations about how a 30-day Kickstarter is sometimes just too much. It's just it's just too much. But so if we got smaller goals, then sometimes we're going to do shorter Kickstarters, and this is one. He's got two two covers, the comic cover and then the original cover, just to show some of his art that he's put together through the years. And
Yeah.
shout out to Wally, man. He's always doing new things and
I
trying to
mean, I didn't realize the company he's worked for. I mean, it's got Tops. We have Archie Comics,
yeah.
IDW. Look at that nice
Look at that!
clear.
Look at that nice, nice, clean, legible logo that they used to have.
Yeah. And, all right, we're gonna drop that.
No, we'll leave him
Yeah,
alone.
we're gonna leave him alone. That. Look at that shredder. That's dope.
Yeah, Wally's got a very unique style, man. Ever since I want to say Wally's one of the first artists that I like. I really started following in the comic space, and he does some traditional work and a lot of stuff outside of comics too. But his comic book stuff is I don't know if people noticed, but he actually drew Ace Blade 3 and 4. He actually did the interior art for Ace Blade 3 and 4. So
Okay.
shout out to the home.
All right. Well, I got one more thing to share, and then it looks like our guest is here, but I got one more thing to share here. So
Oh my God.
let's listen.
We gotta shorten it. We gotta shorten it a little bit, but
Oh, wait, can we hear that one more time? Nope.
that's your job though. We gotta shorten it. We gotta shorten it a little bit. All you gotta do is shorten it a little bit. You don't gotta play the whole thing.
What do you get? What is it? Not is it Oscar? No.
Emmy. Emmy.
No. You said you got to shorten it.
Yeah, you gotta shorten it. You have to play the whole thing. Just play. Because what happened was you played the original, then you stopped it and played the new one, right?
No, I didn't. No, I overlaid yours on top of what we had.
I don't believe you. Well,
anyways,
I think it's fine the way it is.
You know what you should believe? You should
believe
the
way it is.
You should believe our guest, all right? Because he has a great Kickstarter starting up that's making me think that we would want to check it out. So let's bring our guest on. His name is Ray Jamison, aka DM Ray. We're gonna talk about what DM Ray stands for, but Ray Jamison, how's it going, man?
Life is good, man. I want to start with doing the Canadian thing and apologizing up front. Being late for this is a tad unprofessional. I had my time zones mixed up. I thought I had time. I went to recheck my schedule on my phone and I saw the message ready when you are, and my heart sunk. My middle child is just finishing up her birthday party, so we're just processing them for bed. It worked out, but again, I dropped the ball on that. So I'm very, very grateful you've been patient with me on here.
No, we're glad to have you on. And you really went through this real quickly. You're Canadian. I didn't even know that.
I am. I come from.
Can't hear it. You can't hear it.
I hear it now. Okay, I hear it now.
Boot na boot, eh? Is that better?
Oh wow.
I love it. I've lived in a couple of different provinces in Canada, and just like in the States, there's many different variants of accent, if you will. And East Coast sounds more leprechaun-y, West Coast sounds more hippie, and then there's about a handful of other ones in there.
Okay, it's just like the States too, so that's fine.
Yeah, just like the States, yeah. No, I love it, man. Thank you for being on the show, man. We're gonna talk about your project, and I've always been like curious about Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. So even though we don't have as much time as I wanted to, I think we can do a dive into some of your stuff. So is that the DM stands for Dungeon Master, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for just over a decade. I'm a little late to the game, relatively speaking. You hear of a lot of like D&D connoisseurs. They're playing since they were 5. I'll be 41 in February. I've been playing since I was in my late 20s. And as I already mentioned, I've lived in a couple of different provinces. When I first moved out of my hometown, I left all of my friends and everything else. So I looked for excuses to hang out via webcam. So at the end of my adolescence is when Lord of the Rings dropped in theaters. And that was obviously very successful. It had a big impression on me, just like it did pretty much the rest of the world. So I saw, why don't we try some tabletop RPG? And because I was the one facilitating, I just became the dungeon master. It was a tall order for a first-time D&D player, but I made it work. Danny, you've never played D&D before?
I've never done a campaign. Like I've been adjacent to some groups that play,
Yeah.
But I've never done one myself. Me and my middle daughter, we both have talked about it many times, trying to find a group or something like that to join and just learn. But we haven't braved it. We haven't gotten out there to actually to do it yet.
I'll leave an open invite to both of you. When I launch issue 2 of the Madcaps, I want to do a one-shot. So it's only one meeting. It's a short game. And basically, I did this the first time. I actually had some pro voice actors play alongside with me and a couple of other comic creators. Chris Saloff, I don't know if you know him. His game is based off of a superhero version of D&D. And I also had Chance Edgarly. He likes D&D. His comics, I've reviewed a couple. But anyways, I made that one shot was a prequel to the lead up to the start of issue 1 of the Madcaps. So I want to do something like that before the launch of issue 2. I will leave the invite open and keep you guys posted if that progresses anymore. If you're free and interested, for a first timer, it will not be a problem. It can be as easy or as complicated as you want it to be. No different than Street Fighter 4, 5, or 6. Pretty much. You can make it real easy or you can make it really crazy, but either way, everybody can have fun out of it.
I like it. I'm super interested in it, and definitely keep us updated because I at least want to check it out. I don't know what it is that makes me nervous about jump. I think it's because there's such a big community. There's such a such a fan base for tabletop RPGs, and just never doing it before.
I have a theory on that. I think the theory, or I think the reason for that. Terry Crews once described himself as a carnival. He's just as scary as he is exciting. And D&D, there's so many options. It's a limitless option. It's limited to certain abilities and stuff. But if you play a video game and you want to pull a light switch out of the wall, if it's not programmed in the game, you can't do it. You can do any of that in D&D. There's no limits to your 8 buttons on your controller. I want to try and convince the dragon not to fight me. You can do that. It doesn't have to be fighting. And there's many times players have actually stumped me and they came up with a solution I did not foresee. And they got through something that was supposed to be very tough for them. They walked through, and I'm not complaining. I was just very impressed. And that's the really cool thing about collecting imagination to make one story.
I've done D&D once, and that was 4 months ago.
Yeah.
My son plays D&D over the internet with his friends, and I was like, I want to try it one day. And he made up a very short campaign for myself and my wife and our kids to do as a Father's Day gift. And
beautiful.
It was just like you said. If you can think it, and as long as the dice is, good for you, it's possible. So I'd be down to play if you guys have an open spot just to try it. Because I haven't
right on.
played it since then.
I'm always happy to first time people like Danny. You mentioned I'll paraphrase. There's a hesitation because you don't exactly know. Can I mess up? The real answer is no. In a lot of cases, like with a 20-sided dice, when you do a check of some type, if you get a 20. In most cases, depending on the dungeon master, it's almost a guaranteed success. So a great example of this is having Bill Murray fumble his way through maximum security. He could do a bunch of natural 20 checks and make it work. But there's also the flip side. If you roll a 1, it's a guaranteed failure, no matter how proficient you are in it. I want to wrestle this ant. Natural 1 ant kicks your backside.
Wow.
And 5% chance of either one, but I find in my experience, the failed rolls are far more enjoyable and far more entertaining because it usually forces other people to pick up the slack and it really pushes story forward. I'll give you one quick example. I was playing a game with 2 friends. One of them was this burly fighter and the other guy was this sneaky rogue. And they were at a castle and word spread that there was a small group of orcs that was approaching the castle. So the fighter and the rogue decided to go and scope out what these guys are, their capabilities, what if they're armed, yada yada yada. The first one, the burly armed fighter, he wanted to sharpen poles and stick them in the ground, pushing outward. That way, he had some type of tactical advantage if they came to him. He could he could slow them down and kind of survive this oncoming attack. The rogue, he says, well, that person's sharpening those poles. It's going to take an hour. He did a constitution check, the fighter. He's going to be sharpening 22 poles over the course of an hour. Okay, well, the rogue says, well, I'm going to do that. Or rather, well, he's going to do that. I want to go halfway between him and where these orcs are. So he gets halfway, and I'm explaining everything. He says, I want to use my telescope, and I want to see if I can get a really good, crisp view of the people leading this group. So I said, okay, perception check. I'll give you advantage, which means you roll twice, pick the higher number. Okay, so he rolls, and he rolls a snake eyes. He gets 2 1s. So I then describe to him, you see a large man sitting on a rock sharpening posts. He's looking the wrong way. He's not looking at the orcs. But it's just a nice story. And I find low rolls, as soon as you become comfortable with that hesitation you were describing, Danny, out the window. Now let's just see what kind of ridiculousness we can get ourselves into.
I think it will be fun, man. I love stories, and I love especially group stories, like making stuff up as you go, kind of. I love stuff like that, so I think it would be fun. So definitely keep us keep us up to date, because
absolutely
it might be that one time that I just jump into it and see if we can make it work.
Now your book though, Madcaps.
Yes,
definitely looking at the images, it definitely seems like it's up that alley of D&D and swords and sorcery, things like that. I'm assuming I'm right.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're about to launch issue 2 with Kickstarter, but what was issue 1 all about?
So issue 1 consisted of 4 friends meeting back in their childhood home known as Ivywood. And just before they're all going to start reminiscing, for lack of better wording, they find themselves in the middle of an undead outbreak. Now, early on in the issue, they help the guards stave off the outbreak, so the city survives. And the dwarf of the group, he ends up finding that there's no bite marks on one of the individuals, and he recognizes the individuals as a local junkie. So it's inferred that there's some type of connection between this outbreak and the local drug problem. And by the end of issue 1, they're able to track down a shipment of this stuff. And it's implied that they're about to run an interrogation by the end of issue 1. This series is only 3 issues long. The whole thing takes place over one night. This is my first time writing a comic, so I didn't want to be arrogant and think this is going to be monthly for the next 500 issues. It's up to the people to decide whether it's a decent book or not. The only thing I could control was the talent that I surrounded myself with. For example, colorist Dan Kemp, he's colored over 100 issues of Spawn. He's colored.
I'm going to throw some images real quick while you're
talking. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that was drawn by Jimbo Salgado and colored by, as already mentioned, Dan Kemp.
Jimbo's my guy, man.
Yeah. Jimbo's
man. Amazing. Yeah, I really like. He seems to have a big love for Galactus. He draws Galactus a lot, but I'm not complaining. It's just really cool to see his ability to establish depth with anatomy. And I'm not saying he's the only one that can do it, but I'm just very impressed at his specific style to do that kind of thing.
That's crazy. Jimbo was my first Ace Blade commission. Like, he was the
was he? Yeah.
Commissioned to do Ace Blade way back in the day. I thought that I was gonna get him as an internal artist. I just loved his work, and then he told me the prices, and I was like, "Oh, well, I guess there are other people who could do it."
Unfortunately, I'm asking the wrong hot girl out on a date.
Exactly.
We got one more image here.
Okay, so this is Sean Langley's. I just made a pinup. This was an add-on for the first Kickstarter. I'm going to put it back in the second one. Also colored by Dan Kemp. One of the coolest things I like about this specific piece of art is from the ink work They did a really good job at drawing the eye, or he did a really good job at drawing the eye to the center. And then on top of it, because, and this isn't a bad thing, there's so much detail going on. Dan Kemp, he knew to just have the main colors on the main four and no specific colors on the rest of the horde, in turn adding to the drawing the eye to the center of the image.
Nice. That is nice. It's lovely.
Great
And you
work.
can definitely see those swords and sorcery with the dwarf there and this. What is that? A dragon?
Okay, so that guy's name is Madrakis Darthul. He is actually a descendant of a large kaiju-like electric eel that lives out in the ocean. One of the things he's inherited is he could store lightning in his gizzard and literally vomit it out. So he can't just do that all the time, much like a skunk with its ability or a poisonous snake. It can run out. It has to rebuild. So it's not like I'm infallible and I can destroy whatever. He's not Godzilla or anything like that. But very importantly, I wanted to make sure these characters had cool, unique things, but they were also relatable. And at the same time, I didn't want to make them the magic wand or ultimate nullifier, if you will. In that, when I mentioned that undead outbreak in the start of the comic, 3 of them almost die right in the thick of it, and they're actually saved by guards. And when you really break that down, if this was the first season of Star Trek, that's the equivalent of getting saved by a red shirt when you're getting saved by local guards. So I really, really wanted to make sure that there was some type of level of stakes and relatability within these characters. This whole story, it was actually based off of the first homebrew campaign that I ever ran. And the only thing that's different is I took the players' characters out and injected my own characters in, altering the story here and there.
Nice. Okay.
I love it. Is there anywhere that people can buy the first issue? Are they going to be able to get it on the Kickstarter or?
Yes. So online? Kickstarter for issue 2, you'll be able to purchase issue 1 as well. The plan is when issue 3 is done, as I've already said, this is my first time doing this, so it's like kid in a candy shop. As you already mentioned, Danny, most people, when you have such an overwhelming amount of option, most people don't get to this point, I'm told. So to actually get a comic done, my focus right now is, yes, you'll be able to get 1 during 2's launch and 3 the same thing. After that, I'm unsure. So it really depends on the feedback I'm getting. Maybe I'll put it all together in one collection. But at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure this story was its own thing in a package. There isn't like 60 years of lore that you have to follow up on to understand what's going on. So there's a big benefit there. You're not investing a lot into it. Sometimes new series comes out, new Daredevil #1. Well, when you buy into that, if you really like it, it's a commitment. Okay, every month I'm buying this. For me, it's just 3 issues. Yeah. And when it's all said and done, I have to have a discussion with my publisher. Shout out to Filbo Publishing, Philip Russert, for taking a chance on me. My plan was to get this first issue done, and I've been in contacts with Phil Russert through social media, and he was kind enough to take a chance on me. So I'm very, very grateful for him there.
Okay. So I have a couple questions real quick. First thing, you did mention how you're doing the Kickstarter. You did issue 1 the Kickstarter, and that looks like you just funded like 5 months ago. And then now you're doing a Kickstarter for issue 2. So 2 questions on this. How long after the first Kickstarter finished did you already start working on the second one as far as art and things like that? And same thing for issue 3. And how does the Madcaps series fit in with Filbo Productions as far as their other books like Night and Tragedy and all those things?
Got you.
Is it connected at all?
So in regards to like connections of universe or multiverse, Philip just wanted to, first he took a chance on me, but he feels the fantasy genre in comics is very under appreciated. So looking at my book, this is something that people would like. He felt he didn't have anything to add to Filbo Publishing's portfolio like that. Now, when you look at something like Night, it's more of a classic sword and sorcery tale, but injected into a modern time. In a couple ways, it gives me kind of the feeling of the original Highlander, minus the immortals cutting each other's heads off.
Okay.
So mine was like right in medieval fantasy. There's elves. There's the one guy who has the dark bluish skin. He's actually a variant of an elf called an Arger. All of these creatures are all over. And I was, again, Filbo just decided, you know what? Let's throw this on here. Let's see what the people think of it.
Nice.
I love it. I'm definitely gonna check it out, man. I know we've been connected online for a while, so
Yes, sir.
definitely gonna be checking out the campaign. I'm appreciate you for coming on and telling us about it and giving us the opportunity to maybe jump on a game with you sometime. That might be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Can I show off a trailer? Can I share on here? I've never used.
There should be a button at the bottom that says share screen.
I got it. Just let me pause here and then share.
Exclusive.
Now, this is the trailer for issue 1, but remind me of the word exclusive there, because I do have some cool stuff to tease.
Okay.
Is it the trailer that's on the Kickstarter? Or is it a different trailer?
Ooh, it is. I've got it right here.
Okay.
Sharing.
Let me bring
There we
up.
go. All right, let's play this.
A brawny intellectual, a devout farmer, a good-hearted charlatan, and a social facilitator. This circle of friends shall reunite in their hometown, Ivywood. Before they can depart for employment, they are interrupted by a local drug problem which carries hidden, sinister undertones. Can they survive the night? And what is the source of this danger? The bond amongst these friends may be the only metric to answer such questions.
That was dope.
I really wanted to set the tone. Say again, sorry?
I got me a TikTok.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. One thing you might notice, I mentioned an elf with bluish skin, but you didn't see him out of the 4. That elf, I mentioned he's a type of variant of elf called an Arger. They have a very bad reputation. They live in a mountain range that's riddled with silver. The deposits, it would be really nice for a silver mine, but these elves, they inhabit that area. A couple of byproducts of, have you ever heard of this? I know humans can actually do this. If they eat silver, their skin gets tattooed blue. Have you ever heard of this before?
No.
If you look it up, I forget the scientific term. There was a guy, he was a guest on Oprah once. He literally looks like Papa Smurf. It's crazy. But this elf, Chazgo, his people, these Argers, have a similar thing where their skin is basically blue because of the silver. But as a byproduct, being at fantasy, they are also highly resistant to magic. Now, these guys would technically be classed as xenophobes. They don't like anything that's not Arger. So any mercenaries or travelers that come through, they steer clear of that area. Even mages are scared of them because of their high resistance to magic. But Chazgo, he met something that was able to... He didn't like his people. He thought they're very dysfunctional. But on the flip side, he leaves the mountain range. Who's going to trust somebody of his kind? He met an entity that gave him some magical abilities, which is very, very uncommon for an Arger. So when you saw the 4 in the trailer, one of them, he looks human, but it's actually a disguise, so he can fit in with humans. He actually is a representative of a noble, so he's so high up and so deep. If he were to be exploited, he'd be like pretty much killed on sight, which is kind of interesting. I really tried with different characters, in this case Chazgo. I think everybody in one respect or another, especially on first impressions, there's certain things you hold back. And I really wanted to kind of play with that idea of you'll get to know me eventually, but on first impressions, hi, I'm this regular human, nothing to see here kind of thing.
Always good to have a good secret or two hidden in the
Yes, this is
to be
true.
revealed in the story later.
Yes.
All right, so it is now 8:45, so that means it's time for quick takes. If you're ready,
I'm ready.
let's do it. All right, Ray. If you've never seen this, if anybody's never seen the show before, the Quick Takes is a rapid Q&A session where we grill our guests on their deepest, darkest secrets from the internet, in hopes of letting people get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So we're gonna ask you 5 questions. You got 45 seconds each to answer them off the top of your head.
Okay.
And here we go. All right. So question number 1. Which ones have been better in your opinion? D&D games, like video games, or D&D movies?
With the exception of the last D&D movie, it was games all day. The last movie I really appreciated. I mentioned the example of thwarting the DM and outthinking him. I thought even that was shown in the last D&D movie. When they had that magical ability to negate magic. Here's that big evil red wizard, bracelet, owl bear, rip her in two. I thought that was just brilliant. You take that one out, I would lean heavily towards the games without hesitation.
Yeah, I've heard people talking about even the recent game. I think it was Baldur's Gate, being a very, very good game. So I think general consensus would agree with you.
Yeah, even in the movie when they were using the hither to get inside, where they had to use the portal on the picture, that was amazing how they
Brilliant.
combined that.
Yeah, and you could really tell that the people who wrote it had a lot of fun and probably acted out a lot of that.
I love it. Okay. Question number 2. And this is something that we ask a lot of. Star, stop it.
Star just wants to be part of the show, dude.
If you say random words, but in the form of a question, they stop and look at you. Just say confusing words.
Like 7, 8, 12? Okay. No.
That's my kids do too.
Question number 2. What in your time as a creator, what have been the best parts of creating and the worst parts of creating?
Best parts of creating. This is my first time writing, so I really enjoyed how the story melted together from the lore that I already established for the last decade through this homebrew campaign, in conjunction with the characters that I made. I based them off of the players that were playing the first time. So I knew my one person I knew would do this. And I really liked injecting and letting that play itself out. In a lot of ways, it melted together. The worst, I don't have a worst, but the least good is trying to go from script to panels. I don't think that was hard, but I would say that's the least fun, but I don't think it was bad.
Okay. Good answer.
Okay. All right. Question number 3. Would you rather be, and this is going to be the easiest answer you have all night. Would you rather be a dungeon master or a player?
You know what? They're both good. Dungeon master, you get to set up people to win, and I'm an extrovert, and people consider me somewhat pragmatically optimistic. So I'm a big fan of setting up people's characters to do the cool thing, to do the thing they want. You know what? This person, let's go cliche. This person killed my father. Let's say, okay, eventually there's a trail and word has it this person's in town. Okay, let's see how this fella interacts. What was the other part of the question? Oh, that was DM. On the player, player's fun for completely separate, different reasons. I like the chance. There's a lot unknown, so it's just exciting not to know where you're going.
Okay.
My daughter heard us talking about Dungeons and Dragons. She's like, "Wait, what's going on?" Okay. So question number 4. Oh, you were talking about. I saw another interview with you with what was it, Chris? Um,
Daily.
yeah, Chris Daly. Chris Daly.
Yes.
And you said at the beginning of the show they don't make them like they used to. Give us your story on why you don't get into a lot of new entertainment these days.
Okay, so this one's actually, I think I can do it in 45 seconds. So during the Depression leading into the Second World War, many consider that, quote unquote, the greatest generation. There's obviously a lot of baggage that came with it, but it made really tough, resilient people. And there's a lot of things to draw inspiration from. When you go down further generations, I had the cool dad from the Second World War. I had the cool grandpa from the Second World War. But now it's a bad byproduct of a good thing. And the good thing is we don't go through war, but we're all soft, and it's hard to get good, cool stories because of it. And that's just my shortened version of that opinion.
I like that perspective, man. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
I'll say one last thing just to follow up on that. J.R.R. Tolkien, a lot of his story is drawn from the First World War, just to support what I'm saying there. You think of like a dragon breathing fire, that was flamethrowers in the trenches.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Okay. So what you're saying is that we need to start a war so we can get better stories. Okay.
I hope it never happens, but if it does, you look at the Second World War when there's the Depression. Nobody wants a war, but there was some lemonade from it. We got out of that depression and people were able to do stuff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lives lost, and I wish that never happened. If there was another war, the pros do not outweigh the cons. We shouldn't have war, but if there was, we'd have some type of lemonade to come from it, like you're saying, as a joke, of course.
I got you. Okay, so question number 5. For the 5th question, we always have our guests do a top 5 list off the top of their head. Now, because I'm not super experienced with Dungeons and Dragons, if I'm asking this question wrong, please correct me. But I think you get the spirit of what I'm asking.
Right on.
In the entire lore or history of Dungeons and Dragons, I want you to give us the top 5 adventures from Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, so this one's very loose. I do a lot of homebrew and Forgotten Realms, which is very heavily intertwined with D&D. There's some really cool stories for that. I'm going to focus on just mine because I know them a lot more deeper and intimate. So first story was the takedown of a necromancer on an island so dwarves could leave that island and help out on a war on a mainland. Another one had to be the hunt down of a bunch of sidekicks of mages, kind of like Teen Titans equivalent, that had to do some stuff the main guys couldn't do. I had another one that consisted of I did a one shot where a bunch of warlock politicians tried to kill each other. That one was amazing. Our time is up, unfortunately. That last one was freaking hilarious.
You can do the last 2.
Yeah, give us 2 more. Give us 2 more.
So, well, I mean, the warlock one, I just got to say, nobody knew going into it anybody else's abilities. They didn't know they were all warlocks until they all had to decide what to do with, like, I was just saying this on another podcast not too long ago. We have a magic artifact and we have to strategically put it in a specific part of the city. What is the most beneficial for us? There was 3 different political parties, so they're all fighting over it. Eventually, some assassins get involved and everybody just gets suspicious of each other and it's just a bloodbath.
Okay.
It's a good time.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Well, thank you for doing that with us. This week, Quick Takes have been brought to you by Gemini Comic Supply. If you go to GeminiComicSupply.com and use the promo code AceBlade, you get 10% off your entire order. We appreciate you doing that for us.
When are we going to get a Four Tales podcast one logo?
We can make it happen. We can make it happen.
Okay. All right.
I really appreciate this, fellas. This was a good time. If you ever need somebody or in a jam, I will happily be here on time next time.
Okay. Well, no, we appreciate you being on, and we want to make sure that people follow up on you. We did put the link to the Kickstarter in the chat, so anybody
Oh,
that's
thank you.
live
Is that for
can check it out.
issue 2 with the pre-launch?
It says pre-launch there.
Beautiful.
So,
that's great. Thank you.
But we also want to make sure people follow you and your social media. So where's the best place for them to check that out?
Okay, so on Facebook, you can find me as DM Ray. DM is short for Dungeon Master. You can also find me on the Madcaps has its own Facebook page. You can find me on Instagram and what we like to call Twixter as Raymond the DM. DM Ray was taken, unfortunately.
Oh.
And I do want to give a couple of teasers. Issue number 2, Stakes Raise. I've got my artists already pumping out covers. I have 3 of the 5 covers already complete, and it's torture not to be able to show you right now. Like I could share my screen and show stuff. I'm not going to do it. I really want to. I'll do the Canadian thing and apologize again. But I'll give you one lovely teaser. I have had the privilege of taking on an artist for one of the covers who he's been working with, his earliest work with Image is 92. So that's pretty much ground zero, not quite.
Wow. And
he has been on a lot of different projects, one of them being Deadpool. It's not Rob Liefeld, but this guy is a well-established name, and I'm very happy to have him working on one of the covers. I wish I could say more. It's not Liefeld. It's not Liefeld. When I say Deadpool and Image, everybody's like, it's Rob Liefeld. It's not.
I think I can figure it out.
I bet you could. You could deduce it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Pretty sure it is. But either way, that is a big deal. Either way, yeah, that's a big deal. So congratulations on that. Can't wait to see it, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Danny, where can people check you out and follow you?
If you want to check me out, the best place to do it is on our website, fourthwallpros.com. And then if you want to find me on social media, it's at the Ace Blade on all social media platforms. Kyron, where can people find you, sir?
You can find me and all my books at tauruscomics.com. And if you haven't already, you can follow me on all social media platforms, including Twitterx, because I'm going to start using that now.
Twixter.
Twixter, that's what it was.
Twitter with an X, Twixter.
Twixter, okay. You can find me at Taurus Comics on all social media platforms. And if this is the first time you've checked out our podcast, you can go back to our website, which is fourtalespodcast.com. That is the number 4, TALES podcast.com. You can listen to our previous episodes. You can check out any merchandise you want to buy, things like that help support us. But come back next week. What is that? The 25th? It's the end of the month recap for October. We're going to talk about the Beam Awards, which, Raymond, if you haven't already, please tell your fans to nominate your book, Madcaps #1, since it was published this year.
That's right.
To nominate, your book. But
okay.
Everybody go to fourtalespodcast.com. You can nominate your book that was published in 2024. Okay. We'll talk about the Beam Awards and what's going on with that. We're going to talk about what else we're going to bring up? We might have a special guest. We're going to work that on. We're going to talk about a little bit of Spookytober. All right. But everybody from, I guess now, everybody sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.